Vaughn Vertigo, thank you so much for coming on the Grapple Theory podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here, all the way from Canada, coming over to the Grapple Theory podcast. Love it. Love to see it. We always ask our guests to start off with, especially because it's sort of like the start of the new year, how their last year has been. And like, as someone who's been in wrestling for a while yourself, I'm really keen to know, because it seems like from over here, from watching you in the UK, that although you've been wrestling for so long, this seems to have been like a bit of a breakout year for you. It seems like you've had like a really strong 2022 where you made your name a lot of places that you hadn't before.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been wrestling for, I guess, almost 10 years now, and I feel like pre-pandemic I was still viewed as like a young kid, and that's because I started in wrestling when I was like 14. And post-pandemic, I feel like I've been taken a lot more seriously as a competitor, but I've also spent a lot of this time traveling this year. Like I spent 3 months in the UK, just trying to get on some of those bigger companies that have a little more, eyes on them, like Progress and WXW and ICW and companies like that. Companies that when I started coming to the UK in 2017, I didn't know how to get into. And now, years later, I'm finally like wrestling for those companies. So
yeah,
I literally worked from the bottom all the way to like the more upper tier.
No, I was just saying that's really impressive, and like congrats to you for it's really cool to see you thriving over here as well, like especially like as well as back home, but over here especially as us being a UK based podcast. And I want to ask about that because how are things like Progress and ICW, because obviously like at the time of recording they've just come off the WWE network, so like but they were on the network and things like that. But I know that over here, like the big promotions are like Rev Pro and Progress and ICW and like Eve and stuff. But obviously Eve's a women's promotion, so you wouldn't be on that. But like those are like the big names over here. But do they have like the same weight over in like Canada and like what you hear in the US? Like are those names in like in North America where people are like, I want to be on these shows?
I think so, definitely. I mean, I know the UK scene very well, so it's definitely like a bigger deal to me. But when I go to like certain shows in America or even just other wrestlers back home, they're like, oh, you got to wrestle on Progress, man, that's so cool. And even though Progress might not have the weight that it held 4 or 5 years ago and the same star value, like it still means something to a lot of people. And that's something that like that's why I started coming to the UK, is because I felt that Canada, as good as like we have a lot of great talent, a lot of great promotions, but we're always just going to be looked at as like that country that's above United States. Like nobody ever pays attention to us.
Yeah.
And because there's like this Commonwealth relationship between Canada and the UK and Australia, it's fairly easy to come wrestle in the UK. So I kind of tried to transition that in the past few years.
Well, there's a few things you mentioned there that I want to pick up on. First of all, you're entirely right about Canada. I want to ask you about that because I see you repping Smash Wrestling on your beanie there. Smash Wrestling, a huge fan of theirs personally. Like, you guys do great work over there. Really good company. Like, it seems really, again, watching from the outside, it seems like a really well-run company. And, like, you guys think they're doing things right and putting on great shows. But it seems like you're right. It seems like, I have said this before to, I think basically everyone that we have that comes from Australia. Like, I said it to Shaz and Mackenzie recently, the fact that like Canada, like Australia, it seems like loads of great wrestlers come out of there, and yet you never hear about like promotions from there, even though like for people who watch it a lot, like myself, like it seems like they're doing really well and like growing, but you never hear about it like over here or in America.
Yeah, I think that's entirely true. Like I always ask this question to anybody I meet that brings up Canadian wrestling, but what promotions do you know of Canadian wrestling? I'm always curious, like what do you know?
I mean, myself personally, I know Smash, but I couldn't tell you any others. I know that I'm a big fan of Smash, but if I'm honest, yeah, I haven't ventured beyond that.
Unfortunately, that's usually what it is. Like when I was in Italy, I would ask people there, and they said, Smash, I know. They know C4 Wrestling occasionally, because it's on the independent wrestling TV. At the time, Alpha One, which was run by Ethan Page. And beyond that, like nobody really knows of Canadian wrestling. And that was another issue that a lot of us ran into before the pandemic, is like we were having these we'd have these matches with guys like Daniel Garcia, RJ City, Ethan Page, Josh Alexander, all these guys are becoming stars now at these companies like Barry Wrestling, and we didn't have any footage. So nobody knew any of this was happening. So I made a point during the pandemic. I actually started my own like parody backyard wrestling company called Backyard Pro.
Nice.
To make a point that like if you make something with production and if you put it out there, people will see it. And, I put out the first episode of Backyard Pro and I got all these eyes on it. Certainly the pandemic helped because nobody had anything to do, but I proved to Canada that like look, if you make something that's a joke and you just put footage out there, people will pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about like viral marketing, right? Isn't it? Like you film something, and if 20 people watch it, but they share it with their like 20 friends, then you're growing eyes, aren't you? That's the thing.
That's exactly it. And another issue we run into here is like, I know it's the same in the UK, but some companies have it great where like, if you say I have a show last month, ideally I want the footage from that show. It needs to be out within the next couple of days because people are going to forget about it. And then the footage comes out 2 months later and people are like, oh, I don't really remember that happened. You know, Smash Wrestling has it down, I will say, because they live edit their shows. It's very well produced, but they're able to get content out fairly quickly.
Yeah, but it's tricky for like other promotions who maybe aren't as big, don't have like the budget for it, sort of thing.
Yeah, or they don't necessarily know like how to go about like social media marketing. Or they're a little bit older and they come from the tape trading days kind of thing, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, that can be tricky. But like, I mean, coming off the back of the pandemic, have you seen maybe a change in that? Like, specifically in Canadian wrestling, like, have you seen maybe some changes taking place? People like starting to get the gist of that.
Yes. And I don't want to take entire credit for it, but I kind of pushed it towards a lot of companies. That, you know, just put stuff out. Like, since the pandemic, we've had a guy named Nathan Savage. He runs Savage Media Productions, and he exclusively does wrestling production. Yeah. And this is something I noticed in the UK, but you guys have some people that exclusively do just lighting and just video for shows. Yeah. We didn't have any of that. It was just like some people would set up an iPad and film their shows. And it was atrocious. We didn't have any lighting. Like, it would just be like a hall. It looked terrible. So I'm glad people like that have come around, and then Alan from Smash Wrestling as well. He started doing other shows, and it's just helping build the scene into being, you know, more, I guess, you know, more eyes on it kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all that you can ask, isn't it? That's the important thing is getting those sort of moments, those clips, those matches up online that people can watch and be like, oh, this is a great match. Let me check out the rest of this company.
Exactly. And footage is one of the most important things. Like, I just had a match with Axel Tischer here for Smash Wrestling. If I had that match in, you know, like a church basement, nobody would have known about it. But I've been very consistent with posting clips so people know, like, oh, that was a good match.
Yeah, exactly. Then people more watch it, and then they'll get into Smash. Again, like Smash, like that's how I got into Smash, is when I first saw that crossover show with WXW announced. I was like, okay, I got to check these guys out because I like WXW. If they're running a show with Smash, I want to see what they're about.
But even like 3 years ago, there's been Smash vs. Progress that happened in 2016 and in 2019.
I didn't know about those ones. See, that's the thing.
That's exactly the thing.
Yeah. So it's about getting that marketing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So important. It's so important. But it's good to know things are sort of like hopefully changing, and we get to see maybe a bit more of that, and hopefully people over here will be a bit more exposed to that sort of thing. But I wanted to ask you, like, about that sort of like crossover show that you just had, because you just had it. Obviously, like you said, you faced Axel Tischer, great wrestler, incredible wrestler. Like, we don't talk about, like, you know, WWE, AEW, stuff like that on this podcast, but, like, even excluding that, like, just a fantastic career. His run since coming back to the indies has been incredible. Like, first of all, what was that experience like? And what was that, like, entire weekender like? Because almost like what I was saying with Progress, is WXW a promotion, like, in Canada that pulls weight as well?
I think so, definitely. Because of guys like, I mean, if you look at the history, if you go back to WXW, if you're a nerd like me, you look at like your Kevin Steens and your El Genericos and you know, like your Mike Baileys, who went on to, you know, achieve all this success in WXW. And that's how I've always looked at it. Like, if that's how they got to all these companies in America, well, maybe that's what I need to do. I need to go to WXW and I need to be a part of this. So Mike Bailey is the most recent example of he wasn't able to enter the States for 5 years. And look what he did. He went to Japan. He went to the UK, he went all over Europe, and he just built his career from there until now he's at this point where he's too much of a commodity, but he had to be, you know, given a US work visa, which is pretty much what every Canadian is working for.
That's the thing you want. Again, that's something that's really interesting to me because, again, you bring up Speedball, and again, like, the fact that he struggled so much, like, getting into America the first time and, like, made his name, like you say, in Japan and the UK, and like someone like Giselle Shaw as well, who came over and like made her name in the UK like first, really, before she even made it.
As well,
yeah. So like, I guess my question I want to ask is like, given the geography, why does it seem so much easier for Canadian wrestlers to make their name over here than in the US?
Two things. One, the American border, because it is they're very. I don't know. They're very like they think every time you're crossing the border, it's all about like, well, you're taking a job away from an American,
Right.
so they can be very like I don't want to say scary, but they're very like by the book, and you have to be very careful of what you do. The geography of Canada, if you want to drive coast to coast,
It's
I believe
huge.
it's like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
The geography of the UK,
A lot easier.
how long? Like 8 hours.
Yeah, you could
like,
get from the top to the bottom of the UK in like 8 hours, 10 hours.
And think about how many little pockets of wrestling scenes that are there. Like you got like the North Wales and the South Wales, and like East London and all this. So for us, it's an opportunity to just wrestle as much as we can and get better. And because there's these companies that have these, well, they did have this WWE affiliation, and because there's the opportunity to wrestle in front of, more cameras and whatnot, it just allows for us to get more experience there. That's not even counting in the fact that I think that the UK has one of the most like incredible talent pools. And I know that there's been all this talk on social media lately with like, well, where did all the UK stars are gone? They got signed to NXT UK, and a lot of them are gone to America now. But like, even with NXT UK when it was still around, like, look at all these guys like a Joe Lando and a Callum Newman and Leighton Buzzard, and like, there's so many of these guys. What are you talking about? Like, there's so much talent in the UK.
That's cool. I really like hearing that as like, because again, that's something that like I think as well. Like everyone talks about like the guys who left, but you're like, well, like that's just elevated the guys who are already here because it puts them in those positions. But it's really cool to hear that from someone who like has experienced the scene over here for so long. That like you think that as well. I mean, like, because like I'm interested to know more about that. As again, like, because you've been over here for like you said, like we were saying before we recorded, like for like 6 or 7 years, right?
Yeah, 2017 is when it started coming.
So like, how like, I guess is that something that you were like sort of quite impressed by in terms of the fact that you would have been in the UK when those big names were still here, and yet you're coming back like last year and like this year, and like the talent level is still that high.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed it the first time I came in 2017. Like, I took an internship with a news company here in Canada, and they kind of offered like, hey, do you want to work for us on weekends for global news? And I said like, I don't know, like I kind of want to like pursue wrestling. So I said to myself like, what if I just go to the UK and like see what it's like, and then I'll kind of make this decision if I want to jump into like the world of work kind of thing. And then I got in contact with Ollie Peace, who runs WrestleForce. I knew him from like YouTube from years ago. Funnily enough, he got me on a couple promotions, and the first company I wrestled for was DOA against Kip Sabian. And that match, like, there's no footage of it, so I don't know if it holds up. But like, I remember it being like my favorite match to date, and it just completely changed my like perspective around it. Like, I need to focus on this. Like,
that was
really,
your push moment.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I was like, I need to focus on the UK because clearly, like, look at Kip Sabian. This guy was, at the time, he was like, 24 or something, and he's killing it. And now look at him now. Like, I need to be here. I need to be wrestling these guys. That's how I'm going to get better.
Yeah. Is there ever that like, I guess that feeling like a couple of people have done? I appreciate it's a big thing, so like, I'm not saying like, oh, you should definitely do this, but like, is there that pull of like, have you ever considered like staying over here for a more prolonged period of time, like a few wrestlers have done, like a year or something? Like, is that a pull that like you're like, I wonder if it's feasible to actually do this?
Yeah, I've thought about it quite a bit. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it. I guess the longest amount of time I've been there has been for 2 months. And I always find that like it always peaks at like right at the end of the trip, and then I go back home, and then I kind of get a little sad and depressed, and then I get motivated for the next trip. So it's something I have considered, but I'm kind of at a point now where I kind of want to start focusing on America a bit more.
Yes.
I mean, Mike Bailey really is like a good example of like, he juggled Japan and UK. I would love to be able to juggle, the UK and America.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And obviously we're talking, because you're back over here soon. At the time of recording, it's only a few weeks. It'll be even sooner by the time this actually goes out. But again, like, how much are you looking forward to coming back over? And so we'll go back to what you were saying the first time. Like, the first time you came over as someone from a country that's so large and it takes so long to get across anywhere. Is it a bit of a mind fuck, like coming to the UK and being like, oh, to get to like the next major city, it's only like 2 hours on a train or something?
Yes.
Is that like a what the fuck sort of thing?
I remember distinctively, I can't remember what show I was going to. I want to say I was just going to like Hope Wrestling or something to hang out. And they're like, yeah, it's a 2.5 hour drive. Or no, sorry, it was like an hour or something. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, I really don't want to drive like for an hour. I'm like, you kidding me?
You're like, that's child's play. That's like a trip to the shop for you.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's so spread out over here. Like, oh, if I want to drive to like Vancouver from here, it's like 3 days.
That's ridiculous. It's crazy. Like
flight,
the geography of them. Like we had like Hyan on it on a few months ago talking about it as well. Like she was like I drove from like Texas to Illinois and it took like 9 hours, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, like I was talking to Leighton Buzzard. He's on his way over to Canada here soon, and he was like, "Well, how do I get from this city to this city?" I'm like, "Well, you have to drive." He's like, "There's no trains." I'm like, "No, probably not."
That's the thing, isn't it? Is like we've got. I think like it's quite easy for you guys. I feel like coming over because it seems way more convenient. But like for Brits going over to Canada and America, you're like, what? Like, it's so inconvenient to get anywhere.
Yeah, you can't get anywhere if you can't drive. It's really tough to live here, especially in wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, driving's always beneficial, but over here in the UK, like trains aren't great, but you normally have some option, and it doesn't take that long generally. So like, I imagine that's quite good. But like again,
I mean, it's very expensive still, but I mean.
Oh, for sure. Like,
I always get my rail card, so.
Yeah, get that little bit of money off. It makes you feel a lot better, doesn't it? Like you're getting a little off, and you're like, oh yeah, saving so much.
It really does. I was hoping that this tour would fall in January, February, because I could still use my rail card, but it expires like February 15th or something.
You got to pay the extra 30 quid or something. Like,
I'm gonna have to.
It'll all be worth it though. It'll all be worth it. But like, how much are you looking forward to coming over this time? First trip of the year. And again, like, especially off the back of like what seemed like such a good year for you last year in Britain as well, like getting on Progress and things like that. That seemed like a real, like, again, like we've spoken about, like a milestone for you, like a bit of a turning point for you over here as well, where more people over here now seem to, like, know your name when you're on a show. They're like, oh, shit, Vaughn Vertigo is going to be here. Like, I want to get to that show.
Yeah, definitely. Like, because I wasn't delusional coming over. I knew nobody knew who I was. So I knew I'd have to work hard and work my way up and, get the respect of everybody there to get on these shows. And it really is, like, these past 2 trips I did in 2022 really felt like it was all kind of worth it, kind of grinding on these like smaller, not great shows, possibly in Norwich, to try and get an opportunity.
We won't confirm that, but possibly, yeah.
I forget where that question was going, but
no, I like that. That was good. I sort of did as well, but I like that. That was worth it. That was worth it for that moment. But no, I'm just sort of curious in terms of like. It's interesting to hear you say that, as like that being, especially for you, like the be like almost like the like I've made it over here moment. Like, how did that come about in terms of that first Progress booking? Like how like did they get in contact with you and like what was your feeling like again as someone who's been coming over here for so long with that being the aim? How did that feel in that moment to know you had that first booking there?
It was great because back in 2019 I was traveling with Brent Banks, another Smash Wrestling guy who. He used to travel with me to the UK a lot. He got on Progress against 2 guys I cannot name because of
reasons. Sure.
Reasons. And I remember I was doing crew and just sitting there like, oh man, I wish that was me in the Electric Ballroom kind of thing. And then, pandemic happens. I actually got in contact with James from Progress. We had a video call and he kind of said like, well, I mean, there's probably not going to be an opportunity while you're over, but I'll keep you in mind kind of thing. And then I went like a couple minutes passed by. I was at WXW 16 Carat. I was sitting across from James, talking with him, but I didn't know he was the Progress promoter. So we've been shooting the shit with each other the entire night. And obviously, if you know James, he has long hair. Like he doesn't look like a wrestling promoter to you. Until we kind of connected the dots, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll keep you in mind while you're here for 2 months." And that kind of I just kept showing up to like there were like some weekend shows. I think there was like the For the Culture show and the women's show that was happening. So I just kept showing up to shows like that and just kind of showing face until eventually Jonathan Gresham ended up canceling one weekend, I believe, and they wanted to add a match. So James kind of looked at me from across the room and he just gave me like a like a thumbs up from across the room, and I was like, I don't know what that means, but but later he said like, okay, I'm gonna have you on the show tomorrow. Like there won't be a lot of time for the match. Who do you want to wrestle? And I was like, what do you mean? Who do I want to wrestle? Weird question. And he gave me the option of anybody from CPF. So I wrestled Mayhew several times. He was my first tag partner when I was here. Callum, I was already booked on a match with in RCWA. Danny Black was already booked against somebody that night. I think it was Spike Gervais. So by process of elimination, I chose Joe Lando.
Nice.
Because I had never met Joe Lando, but I'd always seen him online. Like I had a feeling we would vibe well.
Yeah, and like I've seen that match. Like that was a great. Like you said earlier about Joe, like he's phenomenal. Like he's getting his juice. He's going over to the US. Like he went over to the US recently, and like by all accounts, like made huge waves over there because he did so well. Like so, what was it like facing him again as someone who like you say, didn't really know him like that much about him, like seeing what he was like in the ring firsthand on your first Progress show.
It was great because I feel like we had the same mindset going into it. We just wanted to do the best we could with the 7 minutes we had for the match, and I feel like we accomplished that. Like, because I knew the crowd going out there, like they wouldn't necessarily like they kind of felt like it was like a throwaway match. By the end of it, they were really into it, and that's really what mattered to me.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've been able to kind of get to know Joe more, and I think he holds that match in high regard as much as I do, because for him, I think it was his first like singles match at Progress or something. And for me, it was the same. So
yeah, both sharing that same experience together, which is cool,
exactly.
Really cool. I like that.
And the Dome is a cool venue.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And like that's the thing as well, is like getting that opportunity against someone like Joe as well, because like you say, as someone who like was admittedly like sort of knew that the crowd wouldn't know who you are. To then have a match with Lando where, like, he always steals the show. You know what I mean? He always has a great match. So, like, that, like, you're sort of going to come out of it having had a good match and impressing because you've been in the ring with Lando as well. Like, that's really cool because then it gives you that rub as well. Like, obviously, like, you did your part in that match and you did great in that match. It was a great match. But, like, having someone like Lando who's, like, really exciting behind you as well, the crowd are behind. That, like, if you can match it, the crowd are going to be like, oh, shit, this guy's got it.
That was exactly it. From seeing Joe online and kind of lightly interacting with him, like I knew that we'd have the same like mindset going into it and the same like style of wrestling, that it would work out really well.
Yeah,
I'm very happy for that.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I think we need some sort of like, again, like almost like a Smash Progress crossover where like you guys, like you bring like a Canada stable over to challenge CPF. Like a cool 4-on-4.
If only there were a lot of Canadians coming over in the next few weeks.
I wonder. It's almost like it's set up, isn't it? That's what's going to happen there. I don't know if that is your plan, but if that's the plan, that's going to go down like a fire. Like that'd be incredible.
No, I don't really know. My tour has been booked 1 month in advance, and there's 4 other Canadians coming over recently. I think they're staying out of Wales. Their trip is a little more separate to mine, but I'm trying to make sure that they get on some good stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like again, especially if you could all be on one show, like that'd be great. Like real sort of like proper.
I doubt it. 5 Canadians on one show. It's probably expensive at this point.
Oh, full invasion. That would be. It'd be great. It'd be incredible.
The evil Canadians.
Yeah. Come in with the flag and everything, get booed out. It'd be great.
Exactly.
Love it. So you're based out of London, aren't you? Like when you're over here, is that the same this time?
I always get the question of where I'm based out of, and there is no answer to it because I am based out of wherever
book you.
Like,
yeah,
pretty much. Like I'll spend like a week in Glasgow, a week in Cardiff, a week in London. Sometimes I'm in Copenhagen or Germany, or it really just depends on where the bookings are.
Sure.
But I would say for the most part, I end up either in like Manchester or London.
What do you make over here, like in terms of away from wrestling? What do you make of like as someone who's been coming over for a while, like the culture over here and like because I guess like here in like Toronto, Canada, generally it's like they're both Western cultures. But are there any, like, apart from, I guess, the travel between places, which is significant, are there any, like, sort of culture shock moments, like, things that, like, Brits like to do that you're like, oh, this is weird, but, like, I'll give it a go or something like that? Like, the things like the late night kebab is, like, typical staple British. Have you had that?
Oh, yeah. I've had late night kebab, because what else are you going to eat in the middle of the night other than McDonald's? It's the only thing open, right? Late night kebab is classic. Other than that, like, I don't think it's really that strange. I hate that things are closed really early. I'm not a fan of like horse racing in pubs. Like that's a huge thing. I realize that. The other thing is like you go into like the service center at what do you guys call them?
Service station. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can just like gamble while you're in there.
Yeah, like the fruit machines and stuff. Normally, things like that.
Yeah, that's just not a thing here.
That's because that's the thing. Like I never really I know it's gambling, but like I think over here it's not considered gambling the way it is like in America and Canada.
I don't know. It just seems strange.
Like you get it in like most pubs have a fruit machine as well, and so like they It's just like
it
it's just
makes less sense at the services. Like you're gonna, get your Mackies.
Yeah.
You're gonna fill up your petrol, and then you're gonna like play the fruit machine.
I see what you mean.
Because like
I've never really thought about it like that, but you're right. Like a service station isn't somewhere like you hang around, right? You have your food and you go, or you get your food and you eat it in the car. But like, who's hanging around a service station? Be like, oh, I'll just play the slot for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. That's one thing that I just kind of realized. Like, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, that is weird. Now that you mention it, I'd never really considered it weird before because just
has nobody in the UK thought that this is weird?
I don't know. I've never. Maybe just because I've grown up with it. Like, you know what I mean? It's just normal for me to see it there. But I've never seen anyone on them, and I never really think like who would be on them. But I just assume someone must be on them because they have them there, right? Otherwise, they get rid of them.
Somebody's in there at like 3 a.m. just gambling away, I guess. I don't know.
That is something that I am envious though about, like what I see about like mainly America, because I'm not quite sure in terms of like lifestyle, but like from what you said, it seems like it's the same in Canada. That like there's very little over here that's 24/7 like open, like McDonald's and like the odd other like fast food, like maybe a KFC or a Burger King, one of them will be, but like very little is open 24/7 here, and that I am envious of you guys over there for that, because it seems like there is a lot more option at like midnight or 1 a.m. when you finish a late night show and you're like, I'm really hungry.
I don't think there's not that many more options. It's just we have like a few more options, like Denny's, or I guess in the States like Waffle House kind of thing.
Yeah.
But McDonald's is your classic 24 hours. We have Tim Hortons, which sometimes is 24 hours here. It depends, but our services are pretty much the same. Everything closes pretty early as well.
Sure. Does Tim Hortons like where do you stand on like being Canadian? Where do you stand on the whole Tim Hortons like Dunkin' Donuts or like Krispy Kreme like battle? Like, is Tim Hortons that much better? Because we have like I've been to one Tim Hortons over here, but I can't really judge it over here because there's so few that I'm like I don't know if this is like proper Tim Hortons.
I mean, I did have I hadn't had Tim Hortons in the UK, but I had it in Manchester when I was there last. And I was like, it tastes pretty much the same.
Okay.
Definitely more expensive than it is in Canada.
Is it? Sure. Okay.
But in terms of what Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme,
yeah, like because that's the thing, isn't it? Like everyone, I feel like everyone says like Tim Hortons is like the Canadian Dunkin'. But
I mean it is. But like, can you get sandwiches at Dunkin' Donuts? I don't even know.
You can't over here, but I've only been to small ones over here. I don't know if there's like a big one. Like
I don't care for like the Tim Hortons, like donuts and pastries as much. But if I had to if I had to choose like donuts and pastries, I'd probably go with like a Krispy Kreme.
Right.
Over like a Dunkin' Donuts kind of thing. But in terms of like meals, I think Tim Hortons is pretty good because they've kind of transitioned to like you can get like sandwiches.
Yeah, they do a lot there, don't you? It's basically like it's not like a donut shop. It's basically like a KFC or a McDonald's. Like you can get like proper meals and stuff.
Yeah, you can get proper meals now.
Yeah.
Except they have terrible wedge fries or chips rather.
Oh no, wedge fries are great. Wait, is it that wedge fries you have a problem with, or are they just bad wedge fries?
Their specific wedge fries I don't think are good. Same with their hash browns, not good.
Really? So can't do potato over there. Like the ultimate potato. Like if we're on fast food, like nothing tops a McDonald's hash brown, right? Like that is the tier A of hash browns. Yeah.
Tim Hortons probably falls somewhere like tier D.
Oh, okay, that's a long way off. I remember if I come over to Canada, I'll remember not to get that.
No, not worth it. If you get your breakfast sandwich and they offer, a hash brown for an extra $1, just don't take it.
Just like, nah. Okay, I'll save my $1 then. All right, I appreciate that. I appreciate the insight. Well, we've picked up plenty of people like from the UK over here on the podcast. In terms of like sort of leading on from that, like, maybe not necessarily giving away what you're going to be doing when you're in your month over here this time, but like, are there names still over here that like you're like, I want to match with them, that like really impress you and you're like, that would be a match that I'd want?
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think here. I've wrestled a lot of guys I do want to wrestle, but a guy like Nico Angelo, I've wrestled in like scrambles and multi-man matches, but he's a guy I would love to have a singles match with. Same with OJMO, Michael Oku. For sure. Mills, the same deal. I've had him in like scrambles, stuff like that. Hunter Mills. Leon Slater, I mean, that's an obvious one for most people right now. Everybody wants to wrestle him.
Everyone wants Leon, don't they? Everyone.
I was supposed to wrestle him. Well, Brett and I were supposed to wrestle him at Breed Wrestling in 2020, right when the pandemic hit.
Oh.
And then everything, I think it was like, we were booked against him like late March. And we were because we did 16 Carat in Germany when we flew over and did like a PCW weekend or something. And then at the end of the month, we were supposed to do like one show for Breed against Leon and somebody. And I didn't really know, I'd met Leon, but I didn't really know too much about him. And he was probably like 15 or something.
Yeah, no, pre-pandemic Leon was like relatively unknown. But like
entirely different. And then I see him 2 years later, and like even just like seeing him in like April, he was showing up and helping out at I think like poker shows and stuff like that. And then I come back in October, and he's like this huge star.
He's like one of the biggest stars in the country.
Yeah, it's so wild.
That is meant like that's got to be a bit of a wild thing as well. Like in terms of again the size of the UK to like see someone who like you say like literally within 5 months is literally one of the biggest stars in the country, even though like he was like only just started getting noticed when you were like last over.
Yeah, it's like I literally saw like the growth of it. I saw him just getting noticed in like March, April, and then I saw him get on GCW, and everything exploded from there in October.
That's a shame you didn't get that match with it. Like that, like if that match had happened in 2020, that would have been like your moment of like, I wrestled him before he was famous. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you go to school,
that was me wrestling Kaito Kiyomiya.
Oh, okay.
And now he's in Noah.
Yeah. So you've already had that moment. Okay, you don't need another with Leon. But we still need CUV Leon as well. That would be a great match. That would be fantastic. That would be brilliant. Yeah, someone book it. Anyone who's watching this who can book that match, please book that match. Because that would be great. That would be great. But we've bigged up like the UK stars. What about like in Canada? Like for anyone who's watching who doesn't like maybe doesn't even know like Smash or like doesn't have any idea of like Canadian wrestling. If someone wanted to get into Canadian wrestling, who would you say to them like these are the promotions or these are the rising stars that you should check out to like as your entryway?
Definitely. If you want to get into Canadian wrestling in terms of companies, Smash Wrestling is definitely one of them. C4 Wrestling, you can catch on IWTV. Nation Extreme Wrestling out in Vancouver is a really cool company. Barrie Wrestling, which is just north of Toronto, I work for them. I've been working for them for like 8 years or something. Long time. In terms of like wrestlers, we have a ton of incredible guys. Gabriel Fuerza, my tag team partner, he's heading to the UK here soon. Obviously like a Josh Alexander, but he's already out there doing his thing, so don't really need to hype him.
That name doesn't ring a bell to me. No, not Josh.
You don't know him? No, I think he's coming to Soft Pro or something soon. I don't know. Who else in Canada? Western Canada, like again, like 6-hour flight away. There's guys like Judas Icarus, who I'm wrestling tomorrow, which would be weeks ago when this comes out. Golden Boy, Travis Williams, they're wrestling for Defy up in Seattle as well. In Montreal, you got guys like Zach Patterson, Matt Angel, even Ontario, you got guys like Tarek. There's a lot of really good wrestlers we have. It's just a lot of them have never either broken out of the scene or they haven't really had the opportunity to kind of, have that chance.
Sure. Again, like goes back to what we were saying, doesn't it? About like just more eyes being on it, and like once the eyes are on it, like again, we've spoken to. In fact, I think you might know. We had Speedball. Speedball was our first ever interview on the podcast.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, which was I couldn't believe that we got him on first. Like I was like, "You're Speedball Mike Bailey. How the fuck are you not busy? Like, why do you have time? We've not put out a single episode. How do you have time for me? This is ridiculous." But like, you're only the second Canadian we've had on. So
I'll take second.
Second behind Mike Bailey is not a bad thing. but just something like to him, and again, like mentioned Australia, like. It's very similar, like the things you guys are saying about like there's all this amazing talent and it's just that no one knows about them, and that's the problem. Like that's the biggest issue. Is it's not that there's no talent, it's that just people don't know that the talent's there.
That's exactly it. But I mean I look at it like from what kind of makes sense to me. If you're an American indie wrestling fan and you have GCW and you have PWG and you have all these companies, like why would you look north? Like you're probably not going to pay attention to the Canadian scene.
Yeah, because like I think that is the problem. Like you say, there's so much wrestling already.
There is.
That like again, like even over here in the UK, like I watch Smash occasionally, but like that's like a catch up thing, But I'll be like, I'll catch up with like a few matches that they've had like their last show. But like when you've got things like so many promotions over here, like it's a lot of wrestling to take in.
It is. I think that's where Smash was smart because they started partnering with Pro Wrestling WXW, and I think they shared on their like streaming services, right? I think Smash even aired on Fight Network in the UK for a bit as well.
It might have, yeah.
Pandemic or something.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's just getting those names out there, and once they're out there, I'm sure they'll be huge. But it's getting that notice, isn't it? Like we say.
Yeah.
But I guess like those breakout ones, like you say, like we don't like. You obviously got like the huge names that have come out of Canada. And like you say, like those sort of like then mid names who are still in WWE, things people like Kevin Steen and El Generico, like who are still thriving in WWE but aren't as big as say like your Jerichos or like your Bret Harts in the past. But I think especially like as an indie wrestler, like you say, someone we mentioned a lot, but like someone like Mike Bailey, is that someone like you can look at and be like, Well, like, and obviously Bailey's supremely talented, but like, is it someone you can look at and be like, right, well, Bailey's done it and shown that you can do it as a Canadian, like, work in the indies hard, like, going around the world? Does that give you that, like, motivation of, like, if he can do it, I can do it? Because there is that ability there if you put the work in.
Yeah, 100%. Bailey is like the model for if you want to, get to America. He figured it out, right? Ethan Page, Josh Alexander, RJ City to a degree, working with AEW. All those guys, like pre-pandemic, were all part of the Canadian scene, and now post-pandemic, they all have contracts working for jobs and have visas, and that's something really inspiring for us to be in Canada. But now we're at this point where myself and Gabriel Fuerza and guys like that, like, we want to be the top tier Canadian wrestlers, so we're next on that list to get to that opportunity, right?
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, that brings us on nicely to the first little feature we've got here on the show, and it's called Anatomy of a Pro Wrestler. And this is the shoot now. This is not about Vaughn Vertigo anymore. This is about you, personally. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you let me know what comes to mind.
Okay.
But like, again, it's nothing too strenuous. Don't worry. It's pretty simple. But we're just gonna get. It's almost like an insight to what makes you sort of thing.
Right.
So the first question is my favorite pre-show meal.
Pre-show meal, honestly, can it be a meal or like a snack?
It can be literally just like whatever you have pre-show. It can be like an energy drink or like whatever you'd have generally.
Usually sugar-free Red Bull and a banana.
The energy drinks are a popular one. Like normally it's a Monster, if I'm honest. Like that's the go-to.
I'm not big on energy drinks other than wrestling. Like I will only have one pre-match, and if I don't have an energy drink, I'll usually have like a pre-workout or something like that.
Right.
The banana is because I saw Stu Grayson always eating bananas before his matches, and I was like, look how jacked he is. Yeah. I want to eat bananas, and I like bananas, so.
Has it worked in the same way?
No.
But you keep at it. You keep going.
I'm trying.
It'll work at some point. All of a sudden, you'll just be jacked one day. Like, it'll be that banana, the banana that pushes it over the edge, and all of a sudden, you'll just be like, pfft.
Yeah, I'm gonna try 2 bananas next time, possibly 3.
Nice.
Too much potassium.
Well, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we've talked about plenty of like food. So this can be UK or Canada or like US, wherever you're wrestling. The next one is my favorite post-pinfall pig out.
Post-pinfall pig out, I like that. I feel like I'm pretty simple with that. Actually, that's hard to say. Like, I could go 2 ways with that. I could go with like, if I'm feeling cheap, pizza. I love pizza, and Barrie Wrestling in Canada is sponsored by Domino's Pizza, so we always just get free Domino's.
Oh, so that's incredible.
It's a wonderful partnership. If I'm going more healthy, steak. I always go for steak after.
Nice. So we mentioned Joe Lando here on the podcast. Joe Lando answered this question with I think he said his favorite food was steak. But
I've eaten steak with Joe at his house.
This is very controversial because Joe Lando likes his steak well done.
Yeah.
How do you have yours?
I have mine medium to well. But Joe Lando's also a weirdo and puts absolutely nothing on any of his food. He doesn't like any sauce. He doesn't like any spice. He's a weirdo.
Oh, okay, this is a revelation. That's bizarre.
I sat at his kitchen table with his parents and had dinner with him, and he put nothing on anything.
That's weird. That is weird.
Just like I think we had like mashed potatoes and like green beans and like a steak. Or maybe it was chicken or something like that.
And there's no sauce of any kind.
No sauce, no nothing. Man doesn't want to live a little, I guess. That's fine.
Joe.
But then he eats like brownies before bed. So,
he said he liked brownies as well, to be fair. But Joe, what are you doing, man? That's changed my perception of him completely. I don't know what to believe about Joe Lando anymore.
I don't know either, honestly.
He's not the high flyer I thought he was. Well, the next one's a new addition to this series that I've only just added. So you're the first one to answer it. It's what is your death row meal? Like your last meal?
Oh, I would probably go for like an elaborate like sushi platter, to be honest.
Nice. Make them work while they're thinking your last meal, like.
Yeah. Well, again, I could also probably just go for like a nice steak. But if it's my death row meal, it doesn't matter what I eat. I could also just probably eat like a shit ton of brownies or something.
You don't have to be watching the figure at that point.
No, I really don't. I'm already dying at that point. I mean, I guess I would just have like a 4-course meal, then make sure that like 3 of them are dessert.
Nice, yeah. Dessert is always king. I like that. Yes. I like it. The next one's the song that gets me the most hyped.
Song that gets me the most hyped. I feel like Eminem is like a very like cliche answer, but
No, to be fair, not many people say Eminem. Like,
really,
no, really.
I feel like Till I Collapse is like that gets anybody hyped.
No, I don't. I think you might be the first person to say Eminem on the show.
Interesting. I don't really listen to like rap or hip hop or anything like that, but like, there's times where I need Eminem.
Sure, yeah. You're not like into that genre generally,
No,
but like,
not too much.
You're like Eminem, yeah, always got time.
Oh, I always got time for Eminem.
Nice, I like it. The next one is the movie that I chose, the locker room.
Show a locker room? Probably Hot Rod.
Yeah,
I remember that movie. I love Hot Rod.
That
movie flopped.
That's an interesting choice. I gotta say.
Is it interesting? What, do you have heat with Hot Rod?
Well, no, I don't. Not necessarily heat with Hot Rod. I just like. I don't think that's any answer that I do. It's like it's one of those films that I just wouldn't expect anyone to ever say.
Listen, Hot Rod is a timeless classic. Andy Samberg, Bill Hader. It's hilarious.
It's got a good cast. If you don't want
that, I would say Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Another great, yeah. That's one I can stand by. I like Scott Pilgrim.
Well, fine. We'll put that one down as the answer.
Hot Rod is good, and like you say, like I feel like anything that has like that sort of old school, like I don't know if you can call it old school, but like that sort of like late 2000s SNL cast is like always going to be golden.
It's always going to be golden. There's always going to be some jokes that don't quite age well.
Yeah.
but
that's for sure. No, good choices. Like I like Hot Rod. I'll give you that. Like we won't change it because that is your choice. The next one's a bit of a throwback because it's my first job.
My first job, I worked at Staples Business Depot.
Oh, fun.
Do you know what a Staples is?
I know what Staples is purely from The Office.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. You would from fair enough, from The Office. Yeah, I essentially sold computers until I kept getting in crap for not selling extended warranties, and then I sold paper, basically.
Your life was The Office then at that point?
My life pretty much The Office.
Yeah. Love it. The next one gets a little deep because it's my greatest fear.
Oh God. Greatest fear. Sleep paralysis. I think that's terrifying.
Oh my God. Like I've never had it, but like I know people who have had it and it sounds like the scariest thing in the world.
I don't even like talking about it, but like anytime I've definitely had it and like I try not, anybody who brings it up, I immediately leave because I just don't want to think about it.
No, sure. I get you. I thought I had it once. You know, that sort of like almost hypochondria kind of thing. And you know when you're in bed, it's not that, but like you sort of like you're in bed and you feel like you see like a shadow like because of clothes or something, and you're like, I'm not gonna move. And like, so I said to someone like, is that it? And they were like, no, it's worse than that. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, I've had it easy until this point.
Yeah.
So I get that. The next one is my favorite animal.
Raccoons. I love
nice.
Raccoons.
That's a good shout. My partner would like that answer as well. She's big on raccoons. Like, if like you see them on like TikTok and things like that, she's like, oh my God, look at this, and I'm like, is it a raccoon? And she's like, yeah.
They're so cute, and like I would always try to like, because once in a while I'll come across one and they run away quickly and I barely see it. But last year I came home from a show, and I went out on my deck, and there was just one like right there. And I was like, what is happening? This is a sign. And it was just staring at me. And then I started like coaxing it with, I kept leaving food out for it for a couple months, and then it stopped.
Oh, that's upsetting.
For a couple months there, it was wonderful.
It was basically your pet for a couple of months.
It was basically my pet. I really wanted to pet it. I was advised not to.
No, yeah, it's probably safer. The next one is my favorite place in the world.
Favorite place in the world. I mean, how can I say that if I haven't went everywhere?
You can be anywhere. Like we've had people say like just their bed as their favorite place in the world. So like it can be
good.
However big or small you want it to be.
I mean, I really liked Australia, to be honest. I haven't been there for wrestling, but I went there when I was 19.
Nice.
I would love to go back. I really liked Australia.
Nice.
Let's just say that for now, because
I like it.
What else to be.
No, I like it. The next one's a two-parter, and you sort of already mentioned what like half of this one could be earlier. But it's my favourite match ever, and I want one that you've had and one that you've watched.
That's also hard. Because I really like that match with Kip, but I don't know if it holds up.
Well, it doesn't need to hold up. That's why I always say it doesn't need to be like the technically best match you've had, just like the match that is your favourite, like that means the most to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably either that one or the one I just had with Axel, to be honest. Because the Axel one was like a case of like, I tried to get on Smash Wrestling for a long time in Canada, and the promoter kept saying like, well, you got to build a name to get on the company. And I was like, okay, how do I do that? And then I almost quit the business, and then I went to Europe, and then everything changed. So that was kind of like a payoff of like, I kind of came full circle where I got a marquee match on Smash. B, it was for WXW, a company that I really want to be a part of going forward. And C, it was wrestling a guy from Europe that the whole reason I was going to Europe was to wrestle guys like him.
Yeah. I like that, like a full circle moment kind of thing.
Yeah, so probably that one, I guess.
I like that. No, I like that. And then the final one goes back to what we were saying about favourite place in the world. Let's say not Australia, because it's my dream holiday destination.
Dream holiday destination? I would love to go to the Bolivian salt flats.
That is an interesting answer.
Well, if you look it up, you'll see it's kind of like specifically when it's covered in water, it creates like this mirror effect in the sky. Okay. That's really cool. Apart from that, dream destination. I feel like Japan's a very easy answer as well.
Everyone says Japan. Everyone's like Japan, but like they're like, oh no, I want it to be like a work holiday.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I look at everything as a work holiday.
Yeah.
So.
No, some good answers. I like it. Well, just wrapping up now, but like we've spoken a lot about like you coming over and about the Canadian wrestling scene and sort of like, you know, your hopes for like moving forward. But like in the next sort of year or so, if we were having this conversation this time next year, where would you like to be at? Like if we were having this conversation and I said, has it been a successful 2023? What would constitute that for Vaughn Vertigo? What can constitute a successful year in wrestling this year?
I think constituting it would be more travel. If I got to more countries and, you know, wrestled more higher name opponents, then I think I'd be moving in the right trajectory. Yeah. Whether that's the UK, whether that's, you know, something like Ireland or like even some of those like Scandinavian countries up there in Europe, or it's the US. I don't know. Like all those countries have incredible wrestlers. It's just I want to be with those guys and wrestle those guys, all right?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping at the end of the year, it's just a case of I had all these matches and proved myself in these new scenes, right?
Sure. And actually leading on from that, like just a couple of final questions actually, because that really interests me, is the fact that like we've spoken a lot about the Canadian scene, and it's no discredit to the Canadian scene because it is rising, it is growing, and like you guys are doing great work over there. But like you said, like sometimes when it's tough to sort of get noticed in that scene, can you get a bit of like sort of like FOMO from it? Can you get a bit of like almost like you say with wanting to be more places, like, oh, I wish I was there doing this?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, there's definitely FOMO. Do you mean FOMO in the sense of like if I'm in Canada?
Yeah, like fear of missing out sort of thing. Yeah, like, you know.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of the guys don't necessarily in Canada know what's out there kind of thing. Like I'm very, like, I try to pay attention to everything. Like, even these UK guys that are just about to go over, like, they don't necessarily know what there is in the UK. And I didn't either when the first time I came. I didn't know what was there. I knew of Progress, but I didn't know there's, like, you know, 200 companies across this country and all these wrestlers and all these little scenes and pockets of people. So yeah, there's that perspective of I don't know if they necessarily know FOMO. I have FOMO for sure. During the pandemic, my God, like when Progress was running these like tapings with, you know, no fans, I kept thinking like, well, what if there was a way I could just get over there just to, you know, prove myself during this time where I can't do anything, right? And yeah, I think that's just the problem of being a Canadian wrestler. You see these people who are like, I mean, I don't want to say Leon Slater because he's UK, but like these guys like a Blake Christian or guys in America who are younger and they just immediately they get signed to NXT and then they go to GCW because they have all these options and they can because they're American.
Yeah, it gets
whereas
seen a lot more.
You look at a guy like Josh Alexander in Canada and it took him like 16 years to get to Impact.
Yeah, which is mental because like
it is mental.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane, and it's just, you know, like, what do you do to fix that other than just keep showing up and work, really?
Yeah. And, like, sort of in terms of, like, almost like the opposite end of that, like, do you, like, want to sort of, like, be part of the solution in fixing that in terms of, like, as Canadian wrestlers, do you guys, as well as wanting to come over, like, to here in America and Japan and make your name, is it a thing where, like, there's that sort of almost like that national pride of, like, wanting to make like the Canadian scene like closer to par with those other scenes? Like, is there that pride of like, let's work hard to bring this up to that level?
I think that's definitely it. I've always, like, when I talk to promoters back home, I'm always telling them like, you know, this is what this company in the UK is doing. This is what this company in Germany is doing. Like, we should be doing this stuff on social media so people know that the show is happening, or, you know, they don't miss out on XYZ or whatever, right? Yeah, I lost my train of thought there. I'm trying to think.
No, it's fine. Like, just in terms of, like, you know, it seems like, I mean, it's just cool to hear that, like, I think that's important, isn't it, right? Like, you want to get out there and you want to make your name, but also, like, it's nice when you can also help your, like, home scene improve.
Yeah, and I've kind of looked at it in the sense of, like, when I go to, you know, Germany or wherever in the UK, I am an ambassador for Canadian wrestling. I am always talking about Canadian wrestling. I want people there to know that there are good wrestlers in Canada. Like, Leighton Buzzard is an example of, like, a guy I met pre-pandemic. I wrestled him, and then he's looking for places to go. And I said, why don't you come to Canada? Like, we have a great scene. Come see what I'm talking about. Like, there's so many good wrestlers here. I don't know anybody, like, who has left, like, whether it's a Canadian wrestler that goes to the States or they come to the UK, they always have such good things to say about our talent. I know it's the same with Australia, and they're in the same boat as us, but...
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? Like, guys like Leighton going over, like, you're going to get now UK fans who are like, oh, shit, like, Leighton had this match out in Canada. Yeah. I want to watch it. Let's see what this promotion's like.
That's exactly it. Like, I took I had the PCW UK Cruiserweight title. I took it home for, like, 4 or 5 months, defended it literally across Canada. Like, it's just trying to, like, intermingle those promotions so people know of these other companies, right?
Nice. What you need to do is, like, bring your jacket and, like, have, like, an iPad strapped to the inside, almost like, you know, like, hey, do you want to watch some Canadian wrestling? Just really like, tout it, you know what I mean? Like,
this guy's kind of weirding us out. He keeps talking about Canadian wrestling.
The underground Canadian wrestling market over in the UK.
Maybe don't book this guy next time. Yeah.
Just go around showing people the inside of his jacket. What's in there? Like,
this guy won't shut up.
Love it. Well, Vaughn Vertigo, thank you so much for coming on the Grapple Theory podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. It's been great chatting about the Canadian scene and you coming over here, and best of luck to your trip, obviously, in the next few weeks, obviously, once this goes out. I'm sure you're going to kill it absolutely again. Can't wait to see you over here. And hopefully more big things for you coming this year. But we always end each chat with giving our guest one final bit of promo time. So whether it's in Canada or over in the UK, or with whatever else you've got going on in 23, hopefully America, maybe Japan or Australia or anywhere else in the world, if someone sees you on social media at a show near them or on a match poster, or wants to check you out on like any on-demand services, a match that you've had, why is Vaughn Vertigo going to steal the show?
Frankly, I'm going to steal the show because I'm Canadian. You look at Canadian wrestlers, we have this track record of being some of the best wrestlers in the world, and you know, like, that's really what it's about when I come to the UK. I'm just trying to get better and become a better wrestler. So I'll be in the UK. Actually, I'm mostly going to be in Europe now that I think about it. I'm going to be by the time this comes out, I guess I can say the dates, but I'll be at Body Slam February 25th. February 26th, I don't think I can say because I don't know if it's for sure happening.
Sure.
March 5th, I'm going to be at Creation Pro in Cardiff.
Yes.
And then I'm going to be at WXW 16 Carat that whole March weekend, which is March 9th through 12th.
Awesome.
If you want to follow me on social media, please do, because, you know, numbers are important and all this sorts of things. Just don't add me on Facebook. But at Vaughn Vertigo on all those platforms. You can also check out my stupid professional wrestling backyard wrestling company called Backyard Pro on YouTube if you want to see Josh Alexander wrestle in his basement.
And who wouldn't want to see that, right?
Who wouldn't want to see that?
Go check that out as well.